I'm Brianne Boswell, and in this Peace of Mind Project Roundtable Talk, we sit down with our mental health professionals to discuss the treatment that's available to those seeking mental health help. For more information on the Peace of Mind Project and additional resources, visit the Peace of Mind tab on 14news.com.
At Old National Bank, we're proud to be involved in the communities we serve. Mental health awareness and well-being is an important part of our commitment to those in the community. That's why at Old National Bank, we are proud to be a partner of the 14 News Peace of Mind Project.
Thanks for joining us today for this Peace of Mind Project Roundtable Talk. I'm Brianne Boswell. Today we have three of our partners here to talk about treatment and other options that are available across the tri-state for those seeking mental health help. Ladies, thanks so much for being here. As always, we appreciate your expertise. So for starters, Emily, on today's topic, why is seeking mental health help important?
Well, just like if we have a physical concern, if we sprain our ankle, we'll get help immediately so it doesn't become a break. It's the same with mental health. You want to get treatment early so you can get more positive outcomes sooner.
Absolutely. Lynn, speaking on that, do certain resources work better than others depending on personal situations and needs even?
Yes. So if I pick up where Emily left off, saying just to try to get the help you need at the right time, then that leads us to, boy, is there a big range of help available, and where do you even start with that? So on the very kind of minor end of that, as you realize something doesn't feel right or you don't feel like you're doing well, maybe you're going to be in your doctor's office when you decide you want to talk about that, but also maybe you're at work, maybe you're a kid and you're at school. So where do you go? So that could be just a touch point, but then that range can go all the way through and up to, testing or seeing a psychiatrist or having some other kind of therapy involved. And that is why it's good to have this topic so that we can kind of air those out and know what different titles mean and what professionals do what roles.
Well, I'm picking up where you left off, Sylvia. Is professional help always the answer?
Maybe not always. I think some good things to think about are if the problem has been going on maybe less than 2 weeks, and it's something that I feel like I can handle on my own. Like I make sure that I'm getting enough sleep and I make sure that I'm taking care of my nutritional needs, then maybe you don't need to seek a professional's help. But things that have gone on for more than 2 weeks, or even if it's less than 2 weeks, but it seems to be severely interrupting with your daily life, going to work, taking care of your family, going to school, then yes, by all means, seek professional help for that. Don't try to fight that on your own. Again, just like with the physical health analogy, we wouldn't try to fix a broken leg on our own, so don't try to do some mental health things that are serious on your own either. There's no stigma in that.
Right, so with that professional mental health help, sometimes it's confusing, all the terminology and the different titles. So can you explain the difference between some of them that we typically would see or seek help from?
Yeah, so just a general sort of guideline of some of the mental health professionals that you might hear about. So psychiatrists would be sort of the highest level of training. Psychiatrists are medical doctors. They've been through medical school and have done all of that. But after that, they've completed like a 4-year residency that specializes in mental health and substance use disorders, diagnosis and treatment, and also medical management of that. Beyond that, they might have done even some more training in a very specific field, like child and adolescent psychiatry or adult psychiatry. So they have a lot of training, and being medical doctors, they can service a lot of medical needs. A sort of newer field is a psychiatric nurse practitioner. That is someone who has a master's in science in nursing, but they've specialized in training in mental health disorders and substance use disorders, and they also can provide counseling and treatment and medicine management. But they're not medical doctors. They haven't done all of that training. Then there's a couple different types of psychologists people might hear about. There's clinical psychologists that could have a PhD, a doctor of philosophy, or a PsyD, which is a doctor of psychology. Both have lots of training in counseling and therapy with mental health issues, and they can diagnose conditions and treat conditions through counseling and therapy, but they're not medically trained, so they're not medicine management people. And then some people might come across a school psychologist too. And as that name implies, those are people who typically work in school districts. So they work from like pre-K through high school populations. And they can help school teams with early prevention, with intervention of academic and social, emotional, and behavioral interventions. And then they can also work with some evaluations that might help determine special education needs and stuff like that. But school psychologists don't diagnose, and of course don't have anything to do with medicine management either. So those are just some different general types that people might encounter.
Some general types. There's probably even more. That's a lot of information. So Emily, I'll turn it over to you. How in the world do you know which one is the best one to go see?
Well, I think the important thing to remember here is that it's not one size fits all, right? Everybody is coming to a mental health therapy appointment with different experience, different backgrounds. So it's important to make sure that we're not saying, well, this worked for one person, it will work for me too. It's really important to do your research too. Try to figure out what is it that you're looking to gain out of this mental health treatment. Are you looking for medication? Are you looking for talk therapy? Are you looking for therapy with your family or your spouse or someone else with you? So really thinking about that for yourself, what are you hoping to get out of it? And then of course doing some research. If you're looking at therapy for a particular anxiety disorder or marriage counseling, for instance, looking on different places' websites to try to find a practitioner who's going to meet your needs.
And I think it's important at this point to mention too, we've talked about the medical analogy, you know, in former roundtable talks, we talked about breaking the stigma of mental health help. And that's something so important I want to bring up and mention, that just like if you were to break your arm, you would go to the doctor, and this is the same idea here, for sure.
Yeah, I think the one thing that's different with mental health though is you have to, it's so human. You have to be able to click with that therapist. So if you break your leg and you go see a doctor at one hospital or a doctor in another state, they're going to pretty much treat your broken leg the same way. It's not like that with mental health though. It's really more personal and more connection based. So making sure that you click with that provider and you click with that person who's offering you that help is going to be crucially important for the success of that treatment.
That's a great point to bring up. So Lynn, I'll ask you now, are there other resources out there that may not involve a medical professional or psychologist? What are some other options you know of that people could go to get help?
You know, I think what most people start with, if you've got a general problem, if it's not a crisis, like what Sylvia was talking about, if you just realize, or someone tells you, gosh, you should get some help, I think you should go see a therapist, that would be probably what is most generally done. People's starting point is they're referred to a therapist. And then people don't know still, what are you looking for? So just a minute on the therapy side of it. With the therapy referral, as Emily said, you're looking for someone that has got some experience. You want somebody who has licensure. I mean, everyone in the state of Indiana should be licensed. If they're not, you shouldn't go to them because it's a requirement. And that's because that person will have the right credentials and training and experience with them. But so a therapist could be a master's level. Most of the therapists would be master's trained and experienced therapists that would have licensure initials, initial salad after their name, and LSW, LCSW, the licensed therapy degrees. That would be a good starting point most people come to. But also there's so many other kinds of help. There's mentoring, there's coaching. That would tie with, like, in the schools, if there are school social workers, they're very often, it could be a little bit of like crisis-y related in the life of a teenager. That could be a crisis for the day, or they could be feeling anxiety or depression. But that's more of a mentoring guidance kind of role, where they would then refer on if that student needed more. So there is still that range of people, and I think then it's trying to find the right one, as Emily said, it's the right one for the right fit. And often you might want to ask a lot of questions about, are you the right person to treat this, because the one calling might not know. But also, if you do call or get an appointment to see someone, they may be asking you a lot of questions to help figure out, is this therapist or this person the right one to provide that care, and if not, they would probably refer you to someone that would be more the right fit.
You want to be comfortable. You're in one of your most vulnerable states.
Exactly. And with somebody experienced and really trained to do their job very well.
Yeah, for sure. So for someone who might be struggling right here and right now, this can all be extremely overwhelming. Life itself is overwhelming. So Sylvia, what would you recommend to someone who's trying to decide what resources they are in need of?
I think a really good place to start would be go with someone that you know and that you're familiar with. That might be your general medical provider. It might be if you already have some sort of therapist or a counselor or a mentor or someone that you see on a regular basis. It could be someone at the school who, if you're talking about a child, it could be someone at the school that has a unique perspective of seeing behavior and interactions with the child that maybe are different than they are at home. And if you still aren't sure, you could check and see what your insurance covers, because sometimes that's going to be the important thing, and see which agencies they cover, and then you could call that agency. The good fit is really important. Like you wouldn't go to a cardiologist if you've broken your arm. So I think the same is very true of this field. You want to make sure that you have a good fit and someone who is trained and has expertise in the specific type of mental health issue that you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
And so ask a lot of questions. It can be overwhelming and it might feel like it's taking some time, but nothing is more frustrating than going to an appointment and then figuring out this wasn't the right fit at all for me, and then you feel like you have to start all over again. So it's really better to ask those questions and take that time ahead of time so that you know that when you're going in, you feel like it's going to be a good fit.
And with that being said, unfortunately, many of these places are so full and booked out for weeks, sometimes even months. So Emily, if someone is in immediate need, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah, so I think it's important to remember that sometimes there are wait times and sometimes you don't get an appointment every single week with a provider. But in the meantime, you can access resources like hotline numbers are so great. I know we've talked about those resources several times on Peace of Mind. Support groups are another really underrated, valuable resource. And those are great because everybody in that support group is dealing with a similar type situation. And the support that is shared back and forth is invaluable. I think with mental health issues, we often see this phenomenon where people feel isolated and alone and feel like they're kind of doing this by themselves. But those support groups are such a great way to show that person that they're not alone and that recovery is possible and they can get through this too.
I love that. Yes, we are not alone. You guys are just 3 examples of how many resources are out there, and we have plenty more on our website. But ladies, thank you so much for being here to discuss this incredibly important topic today. If you or someone you know is in need, you can scan the QR code on your screen right now. You'll be directed to the Peace of Mind tab on 14news.com. There you'll find resources to get you the help you need. Thanks for joining us today.
At Old National Bank, we're proud to be involved in the communities we serve. Mental health awareness and well-being is an important part of our commitment to those in the community. That's why at Old National Bank, we are proud to be a partner of the 14 News Peace of Mind Project.